Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. There we go. Communication industry, well done. So, hi, I'm James. Pleased to see you all. So the thing is, right, my house got burgled just before I came to Cannes, and all my computers got nicked, and my presentations too. So I'm literally standing here with my deck in the wind at the moment, and I'm just going to have to wing it. So sit down, Sam. The title of the presentation was Make Love Not More, the whole point of that being that we need to concentrate our efforts on making fewer, better things, not just simply more ads. There's quite enough ads in the world, and if anyone's kind of heard me bang on before, you'll know that my attitude towards advertising is largely that it's pollution, but that we can do something about that. I think that our job, whether you're in agency land or whether you're just starting out in creativity or technology or whatever, I think our job is to never grow old. Now, I was 41 recently, and even to me that sounds terribly, terribly old. I remember asking my mum how old she was when I was about 7, and she said 30, and I just thought, Jesus, you're going to be dead soon. So 41 is terribly old. But luckily, my daughters, they tell me that I'm the least grown up of all their mates' parents, so at least that's something. But if our job is to never grow up, our job is to kind of be like our children. It's to create wonder in the world, to reduce the clutter that exists. Our job is to look at people's problems with new eyes and to help them solve those problems. Our job is to create work of lasting benefit. Not simply the next bit of work that might win us an award or the next bit of work that might make us famous. It's to create legacy. It's to create things that actually matter, things that are of worth and things that are bigger than all of us. So like I said, I was doing a talk not so long ago at a university, and somebody tweeted that they were happy that there was an ad man coming to their university. And I've kind of never been so insulted in all my life, but I have been, but I wanted to sort of say to them, look, I'm not in advertising. I think we're all in advertising to some degree. And I think it's a bit of a dirty word, or certainly has perceptions of being a dirty word. But I think there's something we can do about it. And we can do that by simply adding another letter D to the word advertising. In my presentation, there was an awesome graphic. So imagine an awesome graphic with an extra D coming in, and you'll get the point. And that's about as clever as my deck got. So at that point, we're fine. The idea of advertising is one of contribution. The idea that instead of simply adding more sensory clutter to the world, we can use marketing budgets and briefs to create indispensable services, that companies can actually use the budgets that they would otherwise just use to create an ad to actually create something that brings benefit, to bring people delight, or to simply make life easier. But first things first, who's from agency world here? You admit it. Who knows what the word agency means? The actual word agency, not the descriptor that we now know. So I found this out the other day. And the point is that if you want to understand someone, you have to love something of them, even if it's just a small thing. You have to love their problem, or you have to love the dilemma that they have, or you have to love an issue about them. You have to love their interest or their vision. The more you love of them, the more you will have understanding with them. And that is literally what agency means, to have understanding. If you go back to the original Latin, I'm not that educated to do that for you right now, but if you go back to the original Latin, that's what agency means, to have understanding. So it's a massive irony to me that most agencies on the planet seem to have forgotten that it requires to have understanding of an audience. And I believe that the dynamics and protocols that exist between you and I, between you and your partners, you and your parents, you and your friends, the same exact dynamics that exist between a brand or a company and an individual. even an agency and a client. The dynamic is still the same. It doesn't change, although people think that it does. We are all brands, all of us, and we all know, or we should, that we're not judged by what we wear, but we're not judged by our clothes or our color or anything like that. Those are veneers. They add to the brand, but they're not the brand. The James brand, presented here before you in monochrome, is whatever you think it is. I think exotically cool. You think you're probably right. But similarly, the device that's in your pocket, whether that be a tablet or a mobile phone, that brand is whatever you think it is. It doesn't matter what that brand tells you it is. And how it works and how your view aligns depends on your relationship with that brand. And on one very important word, authenticity. Visualize authenticity, written there. How authentic something feels to you is literally the linchpin of whether or not you feel any kind of love for anything. After all the veneers have been stripped away, what you say you do is overshadowed by what you do. What you do is how authentic you are. Authenticity is the most sought after and cherished characteristic of anything that a brand seeks. Why? Well, it's really simple, because you can't manufacture authenticity, although many people do try. You need to discover it within yourself. Of course, the problem is that as soon as we move from individuals who allegedly understand this, and we move to a brand or a company, authenticity is the first thing to suffer. Why is this? What changes? Well, I'm not a hippie, but I think it's everything to do with love. I think love is the thing that changes everything. Think back, if you could, to an exceptional experience that you've had, either online or offline, with a brand, service, company, whatever. You can just picture that experience in your head and how that made you feel, and how good or satisfied that experience was. I think you remember it because whatever it was done with absolute love. Whoever built the interface was doing it for an honorable reason. They were doing it because they loved doing it. Their heart and soul went into it. Whoever was talking to you loved what they were talking about. It seems like a really obvious thing to say, and it is. Nothing I'm going to be telling you today is earth-shatteringly new. But most of the stuff out there isn't. It's just that we all need reminding of these things. What that love comes across as is authenticity. Authenticity, for it to appear genuine, has to be genuine. Like a smile or a handshake. We've all been given handshakes that aren't authentic. You know, when somebody shakes your hand and looks the other way to see who's more important. That's the killer for me. We know when they're fake. And the most forward-thinking and innovative brands on the planet understand this. They understand that to be authentic, they have to behave in an authentic manner. And lots of other brands and companies on the planet also say that they understand it. And they demonstrate that they think they understand it because words like authenticity and love appear in their brand manuals. Who's ever had to read a brand manual? Who has lost their soul inside a brand manual? It's, my daughter refers to these things as fun sponges. They literally take the fun out of your life. Authentic is not a tick box. Love is not a metric. They are instead the intangible products of businesses that are born of passion, where passionate people exist at every single level throughout those companies. But of course, the trick is not to allow these passions to turn into a process. Passion is, and love is obviously emotional. Businesses, by their very nature, are rational, emotional. This eternal balancing act is something that most people in life have had to deal with. Finding a common ground between these two things takes an enormous amount of ongoing effort. It's not the sort of thing that you can attach a process to. The concerted effort required is usually at the point where people go, they can't be bothered, which is why you have some companies that are better than others. because those are the companies that really want to put the effort in. The problem for business is that people love a process. You can hide behind a process. It becomes easy. It's a safety net for you. But people also love passion. They love it when something really goes right, that they can get behind, that they see the authenticity within. And they naturally want to capture the circumstances surrounding the creation of whatever it was that was good in order to be able to replicate it for future endeavors. So you can see where I'm going. Just by doing something good, people want to emulate it. And by wanting to emulate it, they create a process. And so we start the merry-go-round again. Going back to the first point, children don't have process for play. Children make it up from scratch every single time. Of course, there are learnings. Of course, they grow in their abilities. But they don't have a process for it. They do whatever feels right at the time. Now, how do we find this? It's all very well us talking about this, but how do we find and nurture within our companies, within our businesses, within our products, even within ourselves? How do we find our authentic self? How do we ensure that what we are doing is adding, not simply just making ads? Now, I've observed a whole bunch of different behaviors whilst I've been on your planet, and I've taken note of most of them. And certainly the ones that I've seen replicated time and time again to my own definition of success. Just as an aside, my definition of success is spending the majority of your day doing something that you love. So if you're doing that, brilliant. If you're not doing that, have a chat with yourself and find out what it is that you love and go and do that. And I've put together this list of sorts. And they're not rules, they're not revelations, they're more reminders. The reminders that we can put into action in our daily lives, in our businesses. I call them gists. They're attitudes that I've seen proliferate the most successful individuals and companies that I've come across in the 20-odd years of doing AKQA. So I thought I'd inflict a few upon you this afternoon. I'm not going to do all of them because we've only got 3 hours. So I'm just going to give you a few. So the first gist is hurting or healing. There are 2 types of people in this world. 3 types of people, actually. First type of person divides people into 2 types of people. And then there's energy givers and energy takers. And we all know who the energy givers are, and we all know who the energy takers are. The people that want to lift you up and make you feel good, or the people that just want to suck you down and, it's not good to be around. Like people, there is also work that is hurting or healing, that is energy giving or energy taking. What we have to do on every single piece of work we're looking at, or every single interaction, is decide whether or not this thing, is it going to add, is it going to contribute in a positive way, or is it going to hurt? Is it going to take away? Is it going to add negatively to our ecosystem? If we decide that it's going to add negatively, then we must stop doing it. A very wise man once said that a principle isn't a principle until it costs you money. Well, that's a principle and a half to actually decide that something is going to do harm. The second one is listen to the voices in your head. We all know somebody we maybe refer to as the hindsight kid, the person who tells you what you should have done a long time after the event has happened, or just as the event has happened. Something goes wrong, they tell you what you should have done. Thanks, hindsight kid, that was awesome. But the problem is that whilst we all have 20/20 hindsight, we also all have 20/20 foresight. And those are the voices in your head. The problem is that those voices largely tell you really inconvenient things. They tell you stuff that's going to be hard to do. They tell you stuff that's going to require more effort than the thing before. But largely, and again, it's just my experience, the voices are always right. Unless they're saying kill, kill, kill. at which point ignore them. But largely, they're always right. So listen to the voices in your head. Decisions are not dogma. Meaning that if something no longer makes sense, make a change, move on, and don't look back. General Schwarzkopf once said that no good plan survives contact with the enemy. So you can plan all day long, but as soon as you meet the enemy, they're going to do something that you never figured. Or the weather will change. Or they won't be where you think they're going to be. The bottom line for this is things change. Environments change. We make decisions based on the data that we have at any given time. Therefore, there is no right or wrong decision to anything. You just make a decision based on the data that you've got. What happens down the line defines in your own mind whether that was a right or a wrong decision. But that's all we can do. That's all we can ever do until somebody invents a time machine. If you make a mistake, that's fine. In fact, it's brilliant. And we must instill this within our companies that making mistakes is all right. And if you make a mistake, you're not a loser. If you learn from it and never make that same mistake again, and then make another mistake, that's fine. In fact, it's encouraged. But if you make the same mistake again and again and again, you're just shampoo, you're just rinse and repeat. Then you're a loser. Decisions becoming dogma is about understanding that your baby might be ugly. And you have to look at your babies that you create and decide whether or not they're ugly, and then decide what you want to do about it. Do you want to make your ugly baby more beautiful? Or are you happy with your baby being as ugly as it is? But you have to make the decision. Lastly, and probably the hardest one of all, are two of the most important words I think that anyone ever hears. And those two words are dignity and honor. You won't often hear these words talked about in business this century. But maybe a couple of centuries ago, yes. But they are enormously important to everything you do. And we ask people at AKQA when they join. I meet every single person that joins at AKQA because I want to tell them why they're here. Hopefully they understand what they're doing at AKQA, but sometimes it's another matter for them to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And I ask them, what do we, as AKQA, what do we fight against? What's our battle against? And people come up, oh, is it mediocrity? Yep, it is mediocrity. That's one of the things. That's good. Is it work? Yes, it's work. That's another thing. That's really, really good. Is it annoyed clients? Yeah, that's one thing. But that's not the thing that we fight against. The one thing that we fight more than anything at AKQA is drama. Nothing will suck the life force out of your company faster than drama or drama queens or kings. Hey, I'm not waiting for a call. These are my notes, which I've now lost my place in. So the bottom line is, leave your drama on TV. This is the hardest one of all. To go through life with dignity and honor. To conduct your business life with this will often leave you standing alone at times. But this is a sacrifice you have to make. But it's the only way to live if you want to make sure that you're contributing positively to this life. If your work is to be honorable, is to be made with honorable purpose, then somebody who is dealing with that work will notice that. That will come across as authenticity. It's about treating people with kindness, even if they might not take kindly what you have to do to them or what you have to say to them. It's about being honest with our feedback to each other. It's not about being it's just about being honest. It's surprising how few people can actually be honest with each other, because it all adds to better work. And it's about dealing with negativity with absolute neutrality. And that's a skill and a half to learn. When somebody's up in your face giving you drama, whether that's a client or whether that's a colleague or anything at all, if you can look at that with neutrality, then you can win. Ajaz once told me that the smallest birds flap the most, so don't feed them. That was one of his metaphors. I still don't really understand it. None of this is rocket science. None of it. It's just hard. It's just really hard and inconvenient to live like this. It sometimes doesn't win you any friends. And sometimes may even lose you some business because you can't do what the other person might because of your principles. But if we're to use the one life that we have on this planet to do something good, then we have to live like this, in my opinion. It takes this time and effort to create authentic experiences. But it's the only way forward. Nobody talks about something amazing that they've seen as an amazing, immense labor of loads of people doing their job. This doesn't happen. People talk about an immense labor of love. And the clues in the question. Great ideas don't come from self-interest. They don't come from the pursuit of monetary gain. They come from one place and one place only, and they come from love. So I hope you have a really nice day. Thank you very much for listening.